So technical magazines or industry articles for Brexit can sometimes be quite hard to come by because they're not obvious at first. So if you do see or you are subscribed to these articles, then please do send them to me. I would be very eager to actually read them. But this one today, we're looking at how Brexit is going to affect the wine trade to the United Kingdom. So this comes from thebuyer.net, which is a I think it's sort of like alcohol, consumer goods type things like that. And this is Rhys Phillips Cox on the Brexit trade nightmare for the UK. So it begins. Although the Prime Minister boasts that he has, quote, got Brexit done, the hard work has only really just begun, as the UK attempts to secure a trade deal with the European Union before its self-imposed deadline of December 31st, 2020. As a direct and co-owner of Calmel Rakas, Romania's largest exporter of bottled wine, Philip Cox has a unique perspective on these trade negotiations in a post-Brexit world. Given that Romania only joined the European Union in 2007, Cox has first-hand practical experience of exporting wine to the UK both as a member of the EU and as a non-member. He is also English and understands the British psyche, and fears that the nation is sleepwalking into a restrictive trading environment that will severely hinder trade. In this insightful piece, Cox details the many steps that Brexit will add to wine import and export, with VAT, custom declarations, labelling, preferential origin certificates, VI1 forms, and which ones he believes the UK wine trade needs to actively lobby against now, or face a nightmare of added administration and costs. Below are the practical implementations of Brexit on wine trade from the point of view of a large supplier to the UK market. So whatever opinion you have on Brexit, most people, I am sure, are completely fed up with hearing about it. Unfortunately for business, the real decisions is only just beginning now, and it is up to all sides in the wine trade to fight to try and obtain a version of Brexit which causes as little damage as possible, as there is clearly no upside for our industry. As someone who owns and runs a large winery supplying the UK market for over 25 years, both from outside the EU and within the EU, it strikes me that the most EU wine producers selling to the UK and most UK importers, traders, do not realise what the practical aspects of the UK leaving the EU really are. So below is a potentially incomplete list of things that look likely to happen based on current government policy, and it's not easy to decode. The brief details, however, affects the wine trade. So, when the transitional period is up officially at the end of this year, what will change? It might differ from one country to another, but this is what it means for our company in Romania selling to the UK. From the end of the transition period, EU suppliers will no longer use the web-based EMCS system for wine shipments to the UK, and will have to go to their local customs office and complete a full export declaration form, which they need to send to the UK importer customs agent before the goods arrive. This is slower and more expensive. In our case, the customs only accept declarations forms before 12 a.m. and each truck container has to physically go to customs to be checked and sealed before leaving, which is not the case now. Same in the UK. Trucks will need to be physically checked and undergo much more complicated customs procedures. VAT. This will need to be paid in full at the port of entry to the UK before trucks can be released, which is a cash flow pain. Labelling. Wines will have to be labelled with the full address of the UK importer, no matter the quantity produced, which is not the case on wine shipped within the EU. So, for example, if I have one brand of wine sold to 4 UK distributors right now, I need to bottle 4 different versions of it, each with different labels featuring the company address. This is very bad for people shipping fine wines and small quantities of wine. Preferential origin certificates. Now we really are onto the nasty stuff. Onto the assumption that the UK negotiates a free trade deal with the EU, every imported wine will need to have a certificate of preferential origin. What is that? Well, it's a lot of work, I can tell you. It means a supplier needs to get proof for each and every ingredient of wine as the country of origin, and only EU origin will qualify for getting tariff-free trade. That doesn't sound bad. It took me the work of two people to up to 2 months to get one of these done for a shipment to Korea, and this has a similar agreement with the EU. It turns out that wine has about 20 ingredients and sub-ingredients, labels, glue, paper, ink, varnish, hoe foil, cartons, paper, ink, glue, screw caps, aluminium ink, VCP liner, hoe foil, bottles, sand, soda, etc., grapes, enzymes, yeast, biosynate, etc., etc. So a big heap of paperwork that needs to be gathered and then checked by local customs for each type of wine every year. And in some countries, it is also done specifically for each customer. Even in countries with cheap labour, this costs around €500 to do for each wine. The V11 documents. The VI1 documents. This is the most damaging, difficult and expensive of the lot. Current government policy is to roll EU law into UK law, and that includes VI11 documents, which are currently used in the EU only. For wines imported from outside the EU, DEFRA policy is that they want to use those documents for all wines imported from the EU after the transition period. So what is a V1 document? Well, for those who import from outside the EU will already know. It's a document with two parts, an analysis which has to be done at an official lab and a food safety verification which needs to be done by a government inspector and signed off. So that's just, again, the lie that Brexit would remove all this red tape. It's just adding to it. And this is someone trying to sell into our country. Imagine, and this isn't going to change, this is going to be exactly the same process someone has to do if they want to take their product into the EU. That's a whole lot of money, and as we said before last week, a lot of businesses are just going to go, well, it's cheaper just to move shop and just be in the EU. You know? So for every batch of wine on every delivery to the UK forever. So that means that sending samples off to the only official lab in our country by courier, which is €20, paying the €25 per analysis for each bottle of wine, bottling different days warrants separate documents, waiting 2 weeks for it to come back, then talking to an inspector from here to get it stamped, plus paying somebody to administer the whole thing and make sure all the paperwork is planned, checked and due in time for each delivery. Why is it a problem? Well, it depends on the kind of business you have. If you are sending full trucks of wine out to one large supermarket, it's not a huge problem, requiring maybe 1, maybe 2 VI11 forms. But that doesn't mean last-minute panic deliveries will not be possible. But for small imports of multiple products in small quantities is an existential threat. For an example, a shipment of 2 pallets of 20 different wines, which may be 2 to 3 batch lot codes for each wine, could end up easily having 25 to 30 different VI11 documents at €45 a pop plus the administration costs. And if you're not buying your wine from the producer directly, it gets even more complicated as producers issue the documents, so this will be very bad for fine wine traders. All things together mean that a lot more administration costs and time wasted for my type of business, and will probably be around to add 2 or 3, 5 more cents per bottle, which is significant on wines that sell for under £6. For smaller producers and importers, it will be much worse, and effectively means that small shipments of mixed wines will become near impossible, particularly for reasonably priced wines. So does this need to happen? No. Well, hopefully not at all. I doubt we will be able to escape the customs declarations and labelling requirements, but origin certification can be simplified. It is the VI11 certificates which are something that whole trade should fight against, both EU producers and UK traders. Quite apart from the UK, from the cost and time wasted, EU producers and authorities have never issued VI11 documents within the EU, and there is not enough infrastructure, labs and inspectors to do so, and clearly not by January the 1st. So the documents, in my opinion, are a protectionist measure to make life more difficult for non-EU suppliers of wine in a continent which has too much wine. They offer no real quality for food and safety role, it's just a bit of paperwork. Protections on wine is not needed in the UK, where the local wine industry is unable to supply the quality and range of wines the market consumes, and hundreds of thousands of people and work in the wine trade. Literally no other countries in the world use such documents for importing wine, not America, Canada, Japan, Russia, blah, 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 and so on. Both EU producers and UK traders should fight to eliminate the VI11s, both for the EU and non-UK wines. It will be a real fight, as both the UK and the EU authorities have a lot on their plate now, and not much time. This kind of issue is in every industry, all of which will be fighting their own corner in the negotiations. So get out and do something. Support Miles Bale and the WTSA or your local wine producers organisation to lobby against this. Yeah, the ending was a bit meh. But you get the idea. This is just going to add more bureaucracy to something that just wasn't needed before when we were in the customs union single market. This will have a knock-on effect. This means what people have been denying for quite some time, that food prices and these stuff from Europe won't go up in price, but it absolutely will. These extra administrative costs, both in paperwork, sending to be approved by different people, just won't be there. And certainly in the UK, we do not have that infrastructure. It's just not there. They're currently trying to scramble to try and get all these customs officers in and try and do this job. They're not going to get anywhere near, because you've not only got to hire them, you've then got to train them. And even the Home Office says, and the guys, the customs, the union that's behind this says it cannot train that many people in that amount of time. It's just a physical impossibility. So there you go. Who knows what's going to happen? But I was right all along saying that summer, it's all going to kick off again. So we're probably going to have a continuing couple, maybe peaceful months. We'll have to see. But then again, it's all going to kick off. So look forward to that.